Jim here. Just a couple of things before we start the podcast. This is Funny Not Funny, and this is an episode that we recorded on Lionel's birthday. And I had the wrong mic up, so I did my best in terms of EQing it, but it's just a little distant. My voice is a little distant, and my apologies for that. Another important thing is we talk a lot about the book Piranesi, and we really give away a lot about what goes on in that book. So if you have not read Piranesi and you don't want any spoilers, this might not be the episode for you. We start around halfway through, and we really talk about everything that happens in it. And a lot of that book is made up of wonderful surprises, so I'd hate to spoil it for you. Just a little warning, and here we go with the podcast. Happy birthday, Lionel.
Hi.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Lionel. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. You played at my 40th birthday.
I was there, yeah.
You was there.
I played Jim Spigigo, the band played at your 40th birthday.
It was sweet, thank you.
Hayden Township.
Yeah.
And Haddon Township. And we played you Happy Birthday as a dirge.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this very clearly.
40 years old was the dirge.
Yeah. 40 years old. 40 years old. Now that just seems comical.
Yeah. I'm 60 now.
Wow.
Yeah, the big 6-0.
Today. Amazing.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Fear of Heights Juicy IPA from Personal Best Brewing Company. As I mentioned before, one of the joys of where I now live is there's a cooperative market literally a block from my house that has a rather fascinating array of craft beers. And so today's my birthday, so I treated myself to some Fear of Heights Juicy IPA. It's not a plug. It's fine.
Is it juicy?
I don't know. I don't have a
makes a beer juicy.
There's something about it. I don't know. There's the whole hops thing has gotten very baroque. It really is. Like there's Western, there's New England IPA, and then there's Western style,
yes.
And then there's juicy, and then there's hazy, and then there's blah blah blah, and then there's double IPAs and imperial IPAs, and honestly, to me, it's all beer, baby. Just bring it on.
Now, wasn't this was just us? IPAs were India Pale Ales. And they were made stronger for some reason because it would last on the ship over to India.
Yep.
Or maybe they got stronger on the way.
Who knows?
They had more yeast, more hops, something in them. They tried shipping Pilsner and Bavarian, lager, and none of that worked for some reason. So they had to make up this new beer, this new ale that would work. I'm unclear on the difference between beer and ale and all of it.
So am I. And honestly, I have no interest in finding out. I prefer to leave it a mystery because honestly, all I do is I drink it.
Right.
It's like when I smoke cigars, people come to me and say, what do you think are better, the Maduros or the Toros? I don't really care. I've smoked like the worst cigars. I've smoked the cheapest cigars. I've smoked the most expensive cigars in the world. I honestly can't really tell all that much of a difference. You're basically sticking a big bunch of wadded up dried leaves in your mouth and setting it on
lighting
fire.
them on fire.
It's like, come on, guys. Let's not get too wrapped up about this. I'm not drinking or smoking for the aesthetic experience.
I don't know. I find that stuff interesting. I got a little too in my cigar time. I got a little too into what had more of like a grassy flavor and then I realized it's like they're all just stinky cigars.
Yeah, they're just cigars.
All stinky.
They smell like crap.
I haven't had one in I don't know how long, decade. Yeah. But I do remember one time, if I can tell a story, it was in 2008, and it was in September of 2008, and Lehman Brothers had just crashed. And I was in New York City, and Tom Keene, who had just recently started doing the radio show Bloomberg on the Economy, or Surveillance, I think it was called, at Bloomberg, invited me out to the Macanudo Club, where you would sit and have a whiskey and a cigar. I had two cigars. That was crazy. And I was fascinated. I was watching all the people kind of, on the deck at the Titanic in the Macanudo Club. All of them are in finance, and you could just kind of feel the tension in the room, like, what the hell is going to happen now?
Yeah.
And it was quite a time to be with Tom. Tom was nonplussed. But you can never tell. He's a kind of cool cat. I
love The Big Short. It's a good movie. Yeah. I love Margin Call.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just
Giovanni Ribisi is in one of them. Is it Margin Call or no, I'm thinking of a different film.
I don't know.
No.
Margin Call is like a who's who. Mm-hmm. It's Kevin Spacey, Jeremy Irons, Paul Bettany. Who's the guy who looks like you?
The guy who played Mark Furlf, the head of Lehman Brothers. Mark. I think it's Mark. I don't know. The guy who looks like me.
Who's the actor? Who's the actor who looks just like you?
I don't know. Andre Agassi? I have no idea.
No, hang on a second. That's what happens when you turn 60, is that you clearly have an idea in your mind, but as soon as you think about something, the word goes right out of your head. Margin Call. Let me just see.
Unaware that an actor looked like me. Why would they? It's a bad idea.
They do look like you. Yeah, I know. It's not exactly.
No.
Let's just see. I'm just looking.
Unfortunate career.
We're going to have to edit this one out.
We're not going to edit anything.
Oh, Stanley Tucci.
Right. No, that's also funny. Another funny story. I was at the premiere of the Flash movie in Hollywood.
Yeah.
At the Chinese something theater.
And some guy thought you were Stanley Tucci?
A couple. I was sitting. They put us right by the balcony, like there's sort of, you can walk by. You're just a little bit lower than the balcony and walk by in front. And a couple stopped and said, Stanley. And I was like, no. They were like, Stanley? I'm like, no.
Sorry.
I'm not Stanley. You mean Stanley Tucci? Yeah. But
that's sweet though.
Look just like him. And I said, no, Stanley's much more fit than I am.
Yeah.
They're like, no. They were hanging on to this idea for a while. Like I was Stanley Tucci.
You should just lean into and say, look, you know what? I'll pretend to be Stanley Tucci because I'm sure there's a bunch of other people who think I'm Stanley Tucci, and they'll think that like you're super. Well, I'm going to wrap my arms around both your shoulders,
right,
and then you're going to look so cool. You're going to look like such A-list people because everybody else thinks I'm Stanley. That would be so funny. Tucci. That would be a great short story. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. Let's pretend I am Stanley Tucci.
Let's just say I was.
Look, my father-in-law is over there. Yeah. He thinks you're Stanley Tucci. Oh, okay. Here, I'm going to kiss you. That'd be a great.
My wife is right next to me. But she wouldn't mind. She would find it completely hilarious.
Yeah, the Margin Call, Zachary Quinto, who I know as the guy who played Spock.
Yeah.
Right. Jeremy, did you see this movie, Margin Call?
I feel like I did. I thought I saw both Margin Call and
Big Short.
The other one, The Big Short.
Yeah, just the clip where Jeremy Irons makes his first appearance. It's just 10 minutes. Is I think one of the most magnificent performances I've ever seen in my life. It's just really, it's up there as one of the great capitalists. A lot of people point to what is it, Glenn Ross, when Alec Baldwin gives his vile speech to all the salesmen. I mean, it's in that sort of list of capitalism, red and tooth and claw monologues.
Right.
And Jeremy Irons, his thing is fabulous. It's a great movie. Great
I might be misremembering a lot of the. Giovanni Ribisi is not in either of these movies, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, The Big Short, Marissa Tomei is in it, Ryan Gosling.
Oh, The Big Short's great. I especially like who's it? Batman. Who's that actor who plays?
It's Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Yeah,
he plays Dr. Michael M. Burry, MD. I think that is just such a great performance.
He's not really listed as like, even in the Flash movie, he didn't make an appearance as Batman. But I love his Batmans. I thought that the Batman, what is the plural of Batman? Is it Batman?
Yes.
It has to be.
It's not like attorneys general, so it wouldn't be Batsmen.
Batsman. I like that. Christian Bale's Batsman, I think, are great. And I feel like, the whole Raj Al Ghul, plot line is really cool. It's very dark and, cinematic. It's very cool. But no, it doesn't get, I feel like that doesn't really get the respect it
So I don't really know anything about Batman. I may have seen like one or two of the movies. Where do I start?
With
Talk
Batman?
to me. Yeah.
Oh.
If I want to do the Christian Bale thing.
I would start there. I mean, I think those are
which one?
great.
But there's lots of them, right?
Which is the one?
But just start with the first one, the first Christian Bale one, and
Batman
watch it.
Begins. That's what it is. Batman Begins. Yeah, so he's that Batman that sort of dark. It was based on the DC series.
Yeah, you told me one time. I think like a gazillion years ago, you said, "Oh, there's this new Batman thing where like Batman has a gun."
Yeah, it's
not happy.
I think it's The Dark Knight is the original, graphic novel. Frank Miller, I believe, who started this. All of the comic book listeners, both of them are just groaning right now because
they're like, you people are such
nothing
noobs. you are killing. You are just slaughtering this sacred topic. Well, in terms of, so that triggered a whole bunch of things in my head. One is, so in Margin Call, we have Zachary Quinto, who was Dr. Spock in the remakes of Star Trek.
Mr. Spock, please.
Oh, he's
Dr.
not Dr.
Spock was a children's doctor.
Oh, whatever. So was Dr. Seuss, but anyway. So he's Mr. Spock. And the guy who plays the captain, who plays James T. Kirk, I actually rewatched the movie Into Darkness.
Yeah.
And I really hated those movies when they first came out.
Oh, I think they're great, actually.
And do you know what? It's probably the third time I've watched Into Darkness. And, Benedict Cumberbatch is completely ridiculous. A lot of it's really ridiculous and over the top, but it's massively entertaining. I just found myself, I was like, this movie, I'm like losing IQ points as I'm sitting here watching this. But you know what? It's kind of worth it because it's a lot of fun watching. J.J. Abrams certainly puts on a goddamn
He puts on a good show.
He puts on a show.
It's funny. It was, so I had a lot of criticisms for Into Darkness, but that the trio of Chris Pine as of Captain Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Spock, and our favorite actor played Dr. McCoy.
Oh, he's great.
No, we were talking about,
and also the engineer is fabulous. He's the
that's Sean. Oh my God,
he's fabulous. He is absolutely fabulous. I love his stuff.
So wait a minute. This is driving me crazy now. So Carl Urban is who we're talking about, who plays Dr. McCoy, the least likely actor to play Dr. McCoy ever.
And does a fabulous
Simon Pegg.
job.
I said Sean because it's my favorite.
Simon Pegg, he's great. Yeah. And so what happened was I watched that, and then because I was completely desperate and I had scraped the bottom of the Netflix and the Amazon Prime barrel,
nothing else
I decided, fine, screw it. I'll just take what they're suggesting to me. I'm going to watch Dungeons and Dragons, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it had Chris Pine as the lead character.
Oh.
And I didn't feel like killing myself after I was done watching it. So I guess it was a success. It was mildly entertaining.
Honor Among Thieves, is that the one?
Yeah, Honor Among Thieves. And actually it's stupid, but you know what? If you wanted an escape, you could do a lot worse.
Hugh Grant is in it.
I talked to my buddy Bob Loy, and he says, I was watching this Bella Tarr film.
Yeah.
Or I was watching this Tarkovsky film.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to watch those films.
Yeah.
I said, they're really long. They're really depressed. Yeah, they're infinitely more intelligent and much more artistic. They have much more artistic merit. But that's not what I'm looking for when I sit down in front of a television set at 6 o'clock at night. I want to watch something. I don't want a 17-minute long single shot of a horse pulling a wagon in black and white. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just not there. Okay. I want photon torpedoes.
A slog through Siberia.
Yeah, I don't want that. But Into Darkness, the one I loved was one scene just made me laugh out loud, which is the Captain Kirk and Uhura are riding an elevator.
Yep.
And Kirk sort of figures out that they're having a fight, and he goes, "Hold a second, you guys are having a fight? What is that even like with Spock? What is that even like?" I laughed so. It was very fun. It is a very funny movie. Anyway, so he did Honor Among Thieves, the Dungeons and Dragons film, and we have reached a new low point in this podcast.
Yeah, we're just talking about trash. But one thing about Into Darkness that I found it amusing and like upsetting, because in Hollywood there's some guy for every film who is like, for even if it's just like a light romance comedy, they're like, what about a car chase? Can we get a car chase in this? And, they bring him like the Star Trek film, and he's like, okay, but we need more car chases. Like, do you understand what Star Trek is?
Sci-fi.
It's a spaceship in vacuum. It's warping around. Isn't warping? Can we warp? Have like a warp chase?
Car chase. No. It's like, no.
Man, people like car chases.
It's like brilliant. It's actually a great scene. I love that scene. It's like, he can't catch up to us when we're in warp. Oh yeah, he can. And then you have, and it's just Popeye Doyle all over again. It's the French Connection. Nothing has changed since the French Connection, which was the first great car chase scene, and then there's the 7-Up.
I would argue the greatest, and there are cars. There is a literal, like a motorcycle chase in Into Darkness.
The first, no,
isn't it Into Darkness that has there's like a car chase in it?
No, I think it's the very first film.
They do that?
It's when Kirk as a young man is being chased by a police car.
They do, but no, it's the Cumberbatch one. I'm pretty certain there's a motorcycle. I mean, I could be. I'm right behind you in terms of age.
I know they're chasing each other. They're in San Francisco and they're on spaceships or like garbage scows that are moving around. We have to like delete this entire episode. Really. Or we just have to start refunding money to our listeners. Honestly.
Well, they're not spending anything. What the hell?
Well, even better. We should give them money anyway. It's like, if you provide us proof that you listened to this episode, we'll cut you a check.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna say like, wait a minute, there is literally a motorcycle. Yeah, there's a motorcycle. But it's Star Trek Beyond. So I'm mixing up Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond.
Thank you.
Fine.
I'm not losing.
I really thought there was, but I can be.
Anyway, is Beyond the first one?
No, I think the first one's just called Star Trek.
Really?
No,
okay.
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know anything. Now I don't know anything. Star Trek.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
What?
Star Trek Pine. Okay, Chris Pine is in. He's in Star Trek. It's called Star Trek. The first one is called Star Trek.
The motionless picture. Right.
Which I think was the best of the three that I saw. Star Trek.
The three Chris Pine ones?
Yeah.
Like the first one, the one that kicks it off.
You get the origins where he's like stolen his dad's Mustang, and I love that. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I'll rewatch that. But I really did like it. The third one I didn't like at all. I remember the third one. I didn't like that one at all. But the second one, I love Simon Pegg's thing. He's so funny with the creature with him. That's truly hilarious. Anyway,
he's in all the Mission Impossibles now. He's like a nerdy tech guy.
And he directed the third one, I thought.
Oh, he did? Really? Is it directed by Simon Pegg?
Well, let's look it up. You're there.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're on the keyboard there, dude. Make it happen.
What was the last one? Beyond? IMDb. Directed. Writers. No, it's director is Justin Lin.
Really?
The writers were Simon Pegg,
Okay.
Doug Young, and they credit Gene Roddenberry, which must just be like a contractual
seance.
Yeah.
Right. A Ouija board.
Do we need more car chases?
Gene says yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we pause this for 2 seconds? I'm going to go get another beer. Can you edit that out?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be back. So Piranesi.
Yeah.
You didn't dig it.
I loved it. It was great.
When did you love it? Tell me when you loved it.
It is. I'm trying to figure out a way to talk about it without giving away everything to.
Oh, let's give it away. It doesn't matter. Just give it away because nobody's listening.
Fair enough. Although I have evidence to the contrary, we can talk about later. It begins very slowly, and you're getting these descriptions of this enormous space and the halls and halls and rooms, and it's very Romanesque and or Gothic, and every room has a statue, and the main character Piranesi seems to know all the rooms and know what statues are in each room, and the statues have become like friends to him.
Mm-hmm.
And also the bones of people have become friends to him. Yeah. It's amazing. And then there's The Other, which I found really interesting, of course, because I named a character The Other in my books. The Other is there, and he assumes the other is always there. And then that is a faulty assumption.
Right.
And it just builds. You're really in the dark at the beginning, and then you really start to wonder. You catch on that the other is blinking in and out of this place at will pretty early on, and then you start to wonder what the heck is going on. And then
you meet Arnie Sales, or
the prophet. Yeah.
That to me, she is magnificent at drawing a character.
Yes.
She has a paintbrush for drawing. She has a hand for drawing characters, which is just absolutely unbelievable. And she's speaking through the voice of Piranesi. And the interesting thing about Piranesi is that he's very good at determining smells. It's really odd.
Yeah.
He says, no, he was wearing a cologne of this, and this, but underneath it was something.
Orange.
Yeah. But underneath it was something faintly disturbing, something almost fecal.
Yeah.
And it's like all of a sudden, like every hair in your body goes up. It's such an exquisite sentence because it's like music. The whole sentence goes down to that last word, fecal. And it just slaps you.
Yeah.
It's such a magnificent piece of writing. She's so good. Anyway, so
she is really good. Although I tried to start her previous book, Dr. Jonathan Strange and Dr. Moreau, and I'm not feeling it yet. But
no, it's a long haul. It really is a long haul. And honestly, like I read it and I watched the TV show. The BBC did a very good version of it. Mm-hmm. But I find Piranesi is far more fascinating. It's a much shorter work. It's much more focused. Anyway, go ahead.
It just zoomed by. I looked forward to reading it. I was making time to read it, and shirking my duties in order to read another page or two, just to wake up in the morning and pick it up again. It was so it just zoomed by, and it left me wanting more of it. It also made me wonder, what were those other gateways that Arnie Sales was popping into? Arnie Sales was far more traveled in these virtual landscapes, if you even call them that. I mean, they're these metaphysical landscapes than anybody else in the book. So it made me wonder, like, well, what was going on in those worlds? Like, why was he going to those?
I never got that. What's the professor's
There were like
name?
6 doors. Yeah, when he
6 doors?
yeah, he described going into a state of childish wonder.
Yeah.
And then when he did in a particular place, 6 doors appeared, and he knew which
6 doors appeared.
Yeah,
I completely missed that.
Even and also the other whose name is escaping me, but the other mentions it. He's been visiting his worlds, multiple.
I completely missed this.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that were sort of left out or left hanging, but it also just hinted at a much larger landscape, which was also the case in terms of the landscape that we experienced going through these sort of endless halls, these infinite rooms.
And it's a beautiful love story.
Yeah.
You can tell that he's in love with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another character shows up, and they are.
And sometimes an entire book leads up to one sentence that makes you want to cry. And at one point, Piranesi says to her, "Please don't leave for the house permanently."
Right.
He says, "We can't keep on saving each other. We can't go on rescuing each other."
It's preposterous or it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I wept. It was such a beautiful statement because it's just a great. It's a love story. It's a cop story. It's a detective story. Mm-hmm. It's a supernatural story. It's an intellectual. It's an extremely intellectual book.
Yeah.
He's referring to so many things. It's an extremely spiritual book. It's about justice. It's about
language and writing. It is about
language.
Writing.
It's about everything. I mean, it's just such a magnificent piece of writing. It just hits on so many different things. That whole line about we have to stop saving each other. And there's a lot of British humor in it. There's something so funny about how she describes each of these characters. Like he talks about how he took all the seashells and other accoutrements out of his hair.
Yeah, fish bones.
Right, but then when he decided he was going to go back, he was going to cross the threshold, he decided to put them all back in. And he said, when I went to meet her, I could tell she was quite surprised. She was quite surprised by what I had done with my hair. And that is so British. It was such a great piece of humor. And
he wanted to make a good impression, so he decorated his hair the way he would.
No, it's just amazing. And then the other is great because every word out of the other's mouth is, oh my God, you're forcing me to be such a bad person. I wouldn't normally do this, but you see, you've put me in a position where I'm going to have to hurt you. Yeah. So it's all your fault. Just exquisite how she drew that character, how consistent and exquisite how she drew Arnie Sales.
And it's about cults, and it is about cults and how people get drawn into the charismatic figure, Arnie Sales, and what kind of people get drawn in. Not all sort of innocent, clearly, to Arnie Sales' circle, because the other is anything but innocent.
No, absolutely not. But again, it's just wonderful. You think it's a short book and it's a lightweight book. In some ways, like there's not, it's weird. You can gloss over it, but then you realize all these people really, really well. Mm-hmm. Like the young woman was Sylvia D'Agostino.
Yeah.
She could flit like a cat. She could flit between these worlds, and she did it all. And you could tell they both were in awe of her. Mm-hmm. And how Arnie Sales says, manipulated her life and told her she had to break from her parents. And
she was a poet, and it obviously easily went to that state of childish wonder.
Oh, what was it? She went to college to learn about mathematics, death, and poetry, or something. Mm-hmm. It was so. I mean, again, the thing. I'm sorry. It's just she takes like 3 words,
right,
and makes magic out of them.
Well, that's it. Is that she doesn't over describe the characters, but she does expertly and just enough so that we really know who they are, or that we think we know who they are. And a lot of this also is things are not as they seem. People are not as they seem,
Right.
and yet we have a description of their seemingness that is just so accurate. You feel like you can touch them.
Yeah.
It's a great read. I wish I could forget all about it and read it again. With like Anathem.
Like your brother said, what did John say that?
Yeah, I want to have my memory wiped so I can pick up Anathem again, read it without knowing anything about it. He should read this. This is, if he hasn't already, he should read this. It's really fantastic. And this is one that I actually read. I didn't go to the audiobook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was much better for this. I wouldn't want to listen to this as an audiobook. I would get lost, I think. I'm glad I just sort of put it on my Kindle and read it. But
it's hopelessly intertwined with The Magician's Nephew. I mean, I went back and reread The Magician's Nephew. Like, she's using the same names.
Oh, interesting.
She's literally using names from The Magician's Nephew. And in The Magician's Nephew, if you don't remember,
I don't think I've ever read it. Well, no, I must have read it because I read all the Narnia books, and it's one of them.
Right. It's the origin story for Narnia. And what there is there's this professor who reminds you a lot of the other.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot like the other, which is that he's pompous and a coward and violent. And he tricks this young girl into going into the wood between the worlds.
Right.
It's one of C.S. Lewis's most beautiful metaphors. And when you touch this ring, you go to the wood between the worlds, which is this very quiet forest,
right,
filled with pools of water.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all wormholes or whatever you want to portals to other worlds. But the problem is you immediately start forgetting who you are.
Right.
Like as soon as you get to the wood between the worlds, it's exactly.
And I do remember it a little bit now because I did read all of those books to the girls. I actually, of all the books, this one maybe it was just for the audience, and at the time, didn't seem to stand out. But that's one I would revisit it and read it again.
Well, it's a completely different book than the rest of the Narnia books because it's the origin story. So a lot of it takes place in the quote unquote in our world. But it has some beautiful, like the wood between the worlds is the crowning metaphor, and the fact that you get drowsy and you forget and you can get lost there. You can live the rest of your life in the wood between the worlds.
Right.
And so you can tell and I was listening to an interview with Susanna Clark, and she has much said that, I mean, obviously, since I reused a lot of the character names, that weighed heavily on me. She actually wrote it. She actually started the idea of that before she started writing Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Mm-hmm.
Like 30 years ago. I mean, some really long time ago, she came up with the idea. British humor, incredible character drawing. It's 50 different stories at the same time. It has a huge heart. I mean, it's very much about innocence. About justice.
We're talking about Piranesi again now.
Yeah,
right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, about Piranesi. It's about justice. It's about love.
Yeah.
It's about pure perseverance and innocence and the love of beauty. I love that phrase. What does it end with? The blessings of the house are infinite.
That's right.
Oh, it's so gorgeous. Yeah. It's so.
I'm
great.
A child of the house.
I'm a child of the house.
Yeah.
And I love that scene at the end where he's walking down the streets of London or Manchester, and he says, "I know that person. That's the woman holding the beehive. Yeah. Oh, that's the king." And so you have this weird sense that all those statues represent real. There's some weird kind of resonance between them.
I wanted to stop him and shake him and say, "Don't you know you're a king in another world? You're a king."
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. It's just it's such a low blow emotionally, but she makes it work really well. I'll tell you, she's pulling every single stop there is.
Yeah, well, and there's a sense that justice is denied ultimately, and she says so. The detective says so. That the ending for the other was not enough. for what he had done, for
Yeah.
all the evil that he had done.
Well, the interesting thing is that, there, and then who's was his name? Poor James Ritter.
Poor James Meeks, poor James
Ritter.
something.
I think it was
Ritter.
James Ritter. Poor James Ritter, and he takes him back, and like when people go to the house, they want to stay there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending of the book is him. It's like Christmas time in Manchester or Birmingham. I forget what town it is. And it just sounds horrible. It's like the wind's blowing and the sky's gray and it's a cold rain and he's standing in the courtyard and you're just like, it's horrible. I mean, it just sounds horrible. And he says the bounties of the house are infinite and we live under the grace of the house. And it's really, really, it's really odd. I mean, the book really leaves you with a lot of questions. It's not a happy book.
No.
It's not an unhappy book.
No, but you do kind of want to go there. You want to explore that space that she creates. So it's and then James Ritter wants to stay, but he says to him, you don't know how to feed yourself here.
Isn't it interesting that Piranesi is such a prude in some ways? He's telling other people. It's very interesting because in the end, there's 3 people inside his body.
That's right. Yeah, he has 3 person. He's like split. We're telling the whole story to everybody.
Yeah, it's fine, but that's okay.
Massive spoilers.
That's fine. But, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the whole idea of spoilers. But, Pauline Kael said, my movie, they're not previews, they're reviews. My movie reviews are meant to be read after you've seen the movie.
Right.
I'm not writing so you can determine which movie you want to see. I'm writing for the person who's already seen the movie and we want to talk about it. So
I may put a warning at the beginning. Just if you want to read Piranesi without knowing anything about it, don't listen to this episode.
Well, just wait. Go read Piranesi. Yeah. It's not a long book.
No, it's a very worthy read.
It's a worthy read. So anyway, we flogged that horse, but I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad
it was
you liked it.
It was absolutely great. I want to go to our mailbag. Mailbag. Andrew writes to us. Hi, I'm a regular listener to 4 different podcasts. Yours is one of them. All right. So immediately, of course, I'm gobsmacked.
What's the phone number for the FBI line?
Who are you? I really enjoyed the last episode of season 3. Lionel wondered why humankind spends time and energy trying to learn useless information.
I don't remember that at all.
That put me in mind of the following article. And then he links to an article about how humans will trade pain for useless information. I don't think it is an answer so much as an expansion of Lionel's question. I first heard of this article from one of my other podcasts, Effectively Wild, ostensibly about baseball, but the hosts often go off on interesting tangents. They discuss the article at the beginning of this episode, and then he links to that episode, which I listened to the beginning of, and they do. But did you get to? It's a really short article. Did you?
I read the article, and the problem with the article is I found that the article's description of the actual human experiment, I couldn't understand what I couldn't reconstruct in my head what the experiment meant. That was the problem I had with that. Yeah. Also, I don't remember. I mean, the guy who wrote the letter said Lionel's talking about science. I have no recollection.
All right, well, exactly. It's just more of me typing. Hold on a second. The last episode of season 3 was
Well, who knows?
The phenomenon was always there. So we talked about the book that I read, The Ends of the World, slaps.com. And we had a discussion about the history of stratigraphy and questioning the origins of the scientific process and delay in discovery in the West and around the world. So this was where we were like, but if you throw a ball, you can see.
Yeah, why did we discover everything?
Why do we discover everything late? And so that seems to be the episode that Andrew is pointing to.
But I can't draw a straight line between that and useless information.
A little bit more connected to the Glick book, the information possibly, but I thought it was interesting. I mean, the article basically said that in these studies, people were willing to endure pain, not harmful pain, meaning it was like a patch on their arm that would
heat.
cause a flash of heat
Yeah.
that wouldn't actually burn. So I forget what that technology is, but it is possible to do that. But it would get progressively more painful. And what they were allowing that pain in order to find out whether a random what the monetary reward would be if they chose heads or tails and the coin was flipped and it came up what they chose. So they weren't finding out whether the coin was going to be heads or tails. They were simply going to find out how much money they would get if it was heads and they had chosen heads. And they were willing to endure really increasing amounts of pain up to the maximum. 50% of the people would accept the maximum amount of pain, which apparently was significant, just in order to find out how much money they would win if it came up what they had chosen, 50-50 chance. And so what are the conclusions? I mean, I think that's where it gets dicey. What are the conclusions? You're finding out how much money you would make if you were right. Is that a trivial piece of information? Because that's what they said, that people would be willing to withstand pain for a trivial piece of information. But is that trivial? You have a 50-50 chance of making $1,000. Do you want to know that how important is it that you find out that it's going to be $1,000? And you can't find out before you get shot.
Are you 100% sure of your understanding of the experiment?
Well,
because I found that the description of the article, I couldn't. It didn't seem to be clear enough, and I think you really have to be really, really clear about exactly what the experiment is and what it's testing. I mean, we should really go to the actual article itself.
Here it is. To find out. This is, I got more and more interested in this phenomenon, Bode said. How far would people go to learn inconsequential information, he wondered. Would they be willing to endure pain? To find out, Bode showed participants a series of coin flips in which each side of the coin came with a different small monetary reward. But the participants weren't told which side came with which prize. Bode offered them a choice. Hold a second.
That sentence alone really, I don't understand that sentence. And there's a series of coin flips.
Yes.
We're not told how many.
Right. We're not told how many.
There's a series of coin flips. And what's the next phrase after that?
In which each side of the coin came with a different small monetary reward.
Okay.
So either way, you get money.
Okay. So let's say one side of the coin says $1.
Yeah.
And the other side of the coin says $2.
Right.
And we're going to flip it multiple times.
Right.
Because the first clause of the sentence says a series of coin tosses. I assume we're using the same coin between each flip, although that's
I think it's a coin. It's just a regular coin. It doesn't have anything specifically written on it with a number. It'd be like if it's heads, it's $1. If it's tails, it's $5.
Okay.
That's the knowledge. That's the information.
Let's agree on that. What's the next statement?
Okay, Bode offered them a choice. They could immediately learn the payouts of the different sides in exchange for receiving a brief, painful, but ultimately harmless flash of heat to their forearm.
The payouts, but we already know it's $1 for.
No, but they don't know that before. They don't. That's the information that they're given in exchange for a brief pain to the arm.
So we haven't flipped a coin yet.
No.
We're just saying we got this coin.
Yeah.
And if it comes up heads, you get this, and if it comes up tails, you get that.
No, it's just that you get different amounts depending on whether it's heads or tails. That's all you know.
Well, but I mean, is that the same thing?
No, but the experiment is that information is withheld until you accept a little pain to the arm.
Right, but when you get the pain to your arm, supposedly what happens at that point, they say to you, hey, if it was heads, you're going to get $1, and if it was tails, you're going to get $5.
Right.
But no flip has taken place.
That's
You're
correct.
Just simply revealing the nature of the coin.
Yeah, the rewards based. Yeah, right. The nature of the coin, the nature of the game.
Okay.
And then participants would earn the same. Crucially, this knowledge had no effect on the outcome of the coin flip, which was random. Participants would earn the same amount of money regardless of whether they knew the values ahead of time. So that's misleading. They would earn a different amount of money based on the outcome of the coin flip, but all they're getting in exchange for the pain is knowing what the amounts are.
But you see the problem I have with this.
Okay.
Or you don't.
I don't.
Okay. I just don't. Like, are they flipping the coin? I mean, I just wish they had walked me through like how this experiment actually worked. Like, okay, we sit Jim down, we have a coin, we tell him this, we flip the coin, we tell him that. But I just don't get it. So it's really hard unless you know the precise nature of what was conducted. It's really hard to say anything.
Well, right. I mean, what they came up with as a result is humans value information even when they cannot use it to change outcomes.
Okay.
So in a sense, yes, the information is useless. The coin will flip. It will be heads or tails. You will get the amount. You're enduring pain just to know what the amounts are.
Hey, this is our homework. We're not going to resolve this right now.
All right.
This ain't going to happen. Let's read the article. What is it? It's like Journal of Science, the British Journal of Science.
It's like
B.
I don't know. Salon?
No, it's
science. It's science.
But it's something B, but it's...
Proceeds of the Royal Society B.
Right. That's the actual publication. Let's get the original. Let's get to the bottom of this.
Right.
Because we're getting really interesting.
Right.
I mean, expanding on that. Yeah. Are human beings inquisitive? Sure. Do they sometimes exert effort to learn things that may not have really any direct impact on them? Yeah, all the time. I mean, people go to learn. When I went to college, I took an astronomy course. I mean, I wasn't going to be an astronomer. I knew that. Learning astronomy really doesn't help you in any kind of career path except astronomy. So why do you do that?
I think one of the weird things here is that if you imagine yourself as taking part in a study, and the study involves people flipping a coin, and then if you endure some pain, you can find out what the sides will be worth depending on how they land. You're in the study, and so part of you might say, well, I'm supposed to take the pain.
Or what's the worst they can do to me? Or I'll play along. It's a study.
It's like, what are the rules here? What are you trying to find out? And so part of the study is that a certain amount of pain goes into my arm. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to damage me, but it's going to hurt. So I'll say yes to the pain because that's part of the study. I'm not sure if the way the parameters are set is really...
Well, that's a completely different issue. So my issue is to me, it's obvious that human beings like to learn things for reasons that are not directly tied to any kind of monetary gain or material advantage. And that ties into a whole bunch of
And it might be difficult or painful, yeah.
I mean, come on, a heated patch on the arm. I mean, but the second thing you mentioned, though, is very interesting, which is studies and surveys.
Mm-hmm.
I always love we surveyed 5,200 people. They said 38% for this and 72% for that. And I'm like, the only thing you've told me is that the people who answer surveys, this is what they feel about the issue.
Right.
And the people who answer surveys probably represent about 1.5% of the population of the United States. So the only thing you're telling me is what people who answer surveys are willing to say, which is kind of meaningless. Not meaningless, but all we have to do is remember certain recent elections to know that surveys don't exactly comport with actual.
Do you have
behavior.
30 minutes to answer some questions for a national survey? Okay,
no.
Well, now you have just filtered out all the people.
80%.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I'm always going back to the first point. I'm always, to me, the great thing about classical economics is the economic man. The foundation of classical economics is the rational economic person who does things for economic reasons. I'm like, that person doesn't exist.
For selfish reasons, right?
People do all kinds of stuff that makes absolutely no sense from an economic no sense whatsoever from an economic standpoint, dude. I mean, that's so easy. I mean, honestly, I feel the same way I feel about that as I feel about Aristotle and the cannonball. It's like, dude, I don't need a PhD to tell you that the ball is not going straight up to a certain point and then falling straight down. Dude, I do not need a PhD in economics to tell you that not only do people not do things for economic gain, most of the things that people do are not only not for economic gain, but run contrary to their economic gain.
Right.
It's amazing that anybody survives at all, quite frankly. It's amazing that anybody has any money in the bank at any given point in time, considering how people behave. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to stop there.
The Lionel School of Economics. It's all a mess.
No, I mean, that's why I think I turned you onto that podcast about modern monetary theory.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the reason why I love that podcast is not because I believe in modern monetary theory necessarily, but the great thing was they just said, hey, look, let's turn everything upside down.
Right.
And see what it looks like. It's like that joke, the joke that James Burke tells at the beginning of The Day the Universe Changed, which involves Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein one time was at a party and a guy came up to him and they were talking about science and the evolution of science. And the guy says, yeah, those medieval people must have been really stupid to believe that the sun went around the earth instead of the other way around. And Wittgenstein replied, well, if the sun had gone around the earth, how would it have looked different?
Right.
The answer is it wouldn't have all. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. People were not stupid. They, the observations fit both things. And so the cool thing to do is to flip something upside down and say, let's just play it out. What happens if we take what happens if we take the sun and put it at the center? Right. The earth spinning around the sun. How does that play out? It may not be right, quote unquote, whatever that means. And I'm very hesitant about that.
Well, it's like what Don Smith said. Yeah. He's not going to tell you, it's not his job to talk about what's true. It's his job to tell you what works.
What works.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the Ptolemaic theory obviously worked for 1,000 years.
Yep. Worked well enough until it didn't. Yep. And that's, that's what I like to do. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I know exactly what I would do. What?
I want to do a survey of popular science explanation. I want to do much of the same way when I was in college, when I was at Haverford, they had us read a book called America Revised, which was a history of American history textbooks. It was brilliant.
Oh, right.
They just took American history high school textbooks on American history over the years and compared them. It's fascinating. What I want to do is I believe that there is a story of science. There's a story of science and progress. And I think it's just that. I think it's just a story. And I think that what has actually what has happened behind the story may be close to the story or may not be. But what I'm interested in is comparing. I want to look at the classic stories that were taught about science. I want to take a look at the trial of Galileo, and I want to take a good look because I have an infinite respect and love for Carl Sagan, Jacob Bronowski, James Burke. I mean, these titans who taught me, that's where I learned science from. Mm-hmm. And science history was watching these TV programs like Cosmos with Carl Sagan, and the day and the Ascent of Man with Jacob Bronowski. A great series, a great book. But what's interesting is that in Jacob Bronowski's book, he talks about Einstein. He says Einstein was a patent clerk during the day. He must have thought this really stupid, and many of the patents were beneath him. And as an illustration, Jacob Bronowski included one of the patents that Einstein signed off on, which was for a pop gun with a cork in the barrel. However, I read another book that I immensely respect Bronowski. I read another book of a person that I immensely respect who said, not at all. In fact, if you read Einstein's theory, special theory of relativity, and general theory of relativity, they're written like patent applications. And in fact, the fascinating story, I mean, I'm sure we talked about this before. The fascinating story is that in early 1900s, like 1900 Europe, the big craze in Europe was setting up these enormous networks of electrically connected clocks in your city. If you lived in Bern or London, you'd have these clocks set up on clock towers, and you'd connect them with electrical cables so they would be perfectly synchronized. And guess what one of the main companies was for making those clock systems? Einstein and Brothers. And in fact, many of the patents that Einstein worked on was for these electrically connected clock systems, which of course, if it leads right into Einstein's, all of his thought experiments on special relativity, which is there's a clock here, and there's a clock there, and there's a train, and a lightning bolt hits this clock at this time, and a lightning bolt hits the train at this time. Are they simultaneous? And all that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah. So Jim's just thinking, how much of this do I have to edit out? but the whole thing is, what I like to do when I retire is look at the story we're told about the progress of science. And is that story actually true? I mean, certainly there has been progress. Certainly there has been change. But how much of that story is that? And again, I'm fascinated by that question. Why didn't all the progress happen all at once? I mean, once once Galileo figures out that a ball drops at 32 feet per second squared, why aren't we launching men to the moon like 2 years later? Because the reason why I say that is that when you read a science book today, when you read a book today about science, everything is completely clear. It's like, we went to the moon because we had rockets, and rockets because of electricity, and everything seems so clear and so obvious when you read it backwards. Yeah, it's like if it was that clear, why didn't we do it all in an afternoon? I'm sorry. Okay, edit point. No, you got it's 6:29. I'm sorry, I sucked all the oxygen out of the world.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, it's not.
It's not fine.
It's not fine. I'm going to stop talking.
I will switch subjects just briefly. I have been watching the second season of Foundation. Are you not interested? I actually find it fantastic. I think it's really good.
Are you telling me I should really make the effort to watch it? Seriously?
You didn't enjoy season 1. I know you said it's like every other show.
I sort of stopped when they had Brother Mourning, the kid who wants to. I'm sorry, again, spoiler alert. The kid wants to kill himself, and then he falls in love with the girl from the garden.
Yep.
And it turns out she's not who he thinks she is. Yeah. And it's just like, do I really want to watch this? This is so sad.
It is sad. The whole thing is really sad.
It's horribly sad. And then it seems, just from watching the clips, it seems like it gets a lot sadder than that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's getting better.
No, it gets more grim. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be fun if we were watching it together. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's true.
But the problem is, I got to sit there alone and watch this stuff, and it's just like, it just seems so grinding.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, but tell me about what do you think? What is it telling you? What is the season?
Oh, I don't know. I would say the second
It has nothing
season
to do with it has nothing to do with Isaac Asimov at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. It's the story writers, at this point. And I haven't read the Foundation trilogy. I haven't read. There's more than a trilogy. There's like 5 books, right?
Right.
But there's. I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the characters. I love the 3-part empire.
Do you like that more, or do you like the whole the Foundation stuff?
I thought I would not be so fascinated by this idea of setting up a separate civilization that will be better than Empire. But no, I am finding that more and more interesting. Harry Seldon's plan, and in the second season, Harry Seldon is you learn a lot more about Harry Seldon, which is great. And you learn more about Gale and Salvor. And yeah.
Well, what I can say is when I was like 13, I read The Foundation.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's an electrifying, there's one moment that's really electrifying, which is the Foundation has been set up and it's the anniversary. I forget when it happens. It's like 100 years. And this is the first time that that the vault is going to be opened, and the first of Harry Seldon's recordings is going to be played back. There's none of this artificial intelligence recreate. Right. It's just going to be a recording, and it's such a great scene because the vault opens and Harry Seldon says, "This whole thing about writing an encyclopedia, that's bullshit. Right. We're here to save the galaxy. It's a complete lie what I told you guys. You're not here to write an encyclopedia. You're here to restart civilization when it falls apart." And I remember reading that like it was yesterday. It was so exciting. It's such a great dramatic moment. But there is no 3 emperors.
No, of course not. And Harry's an AI, and he does say that exact thing. People are like, "Well, wait, was this just busy work?" He was like, "Yeah, I needed to keep you from like killing each other, so I gave you something to do." Plus, the actor's so good. I'd watch him.
He's fab. Yeah, he's great. He's great. It's like Silo. It's all her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's amazing.
If it wasn't for her.
And Tim Robbins is great too. Yeah.
Tim Robbins is pretty good, but without her,
spectacular.
The bottom would drop out of that whole thing. When are they going to come out with the second? I'm really psyched for the second one.
Indefinitely suspended. Now we're going to run out of things. We're going to have to stop talking about TV at some point because nothing's getting made.
Oh, that's right. The strike's on. But I mean, are they suspending it because it didn't sell enough, or are they suspending it because it's just?
I don't know why they're suspending it, but well, while I was still on social media, I saw Hugh Howey tweeting that they had suspended the actors' strike has come along now, so they can't film.
Right, but did they suspend because of the actors' strike, or they suspended because
it was before the actors' strike? It was before.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad.
I know, it really left off in a great place.
Well,
yeah. My understanding is that if people are interested, they should contribute to the Actors Slush Fund. I don't know exactly where to find that. I'm gonna look. People are talking about it, but these actors have been out of work and they are living in LA, and it's really expensive. So if you care about what they're doing, it'd be important to donate a small amount of money or whatever you can do to help them out.
Okay.
I tried to read Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency to the girls. They were really bored by it.
I tried to read 120 Days of Sodom to the girls. That didn't go well.
No. I don't know why.
Your poor daughters are like lab rats that never escape from the maze.
Literally. We sell them for like medical experiments. Lease them out. I'm not kidding. Astrid is having like electrodes, like they're mapping her brain at Northeastern University. I feel sorry for the people who are doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to read you the Urantia book. Tell me what you think of this one. Here, I'm going to read this one thing.
Right. Yeah.
Something I did reread recently, though. I read a couple of stories out of The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
Man, can that guy write? I tell you.
I should go back to it. I should go back to Ray Bradbury.
Oh, my God. They're so... He's so... I'm sure there's a million authors like him.
I need another read. I mean, there's a long list, and I did do references for the last episode, so they're all up there, all the books we talked about. And there's a lot of good potential there. But yeah, I'm looking for the next thing to read for myself, and I need to figure out something to read to the girls. Probably Samuel R. Delany is probably not the right author.
No. Oh, but Nova's a great book. Nova's
I did read Nova. Yeah,
and in fact, they're making a movie of it.
Really?
Yeah, which totally blows my mind.
But they're probably not, except.
Well, not right now, but somebody said, did you send me the article? Like somebody's actually put money up to put Nova into production. Nova's different. Nova is that was early Samuel R. Delany, like, what was it? Babylon 17. And when he was just writing straight at like stuff that was as close as he got to straight ahead science fiction.
Right.
And Nova, you could definitely see large chunks of William Gibson in there, like where William was coming from. Nova's a great, much more like Dune. It's just a good old fashioned space adventure. It's basically a heist movie in space with the evil brother and sister who are the antagonists.
It's not the one that I read. Not the one that I read.
Oh, Nova's about Captain something who's going to sail through the center of a star and collect enough Illyrium to free his people. Oh, it's just great. It's just it's Skip Delaney for a few seconds not being Skip Delaney and just being like the 15-year-old kid who reads science fiction books. And it's a great book. It's a fabulous book. Not a fabulous book. It's a very flawed book, but it's a lot of fun when you read a lot of Skip Delaney and then you read Nova. It's like, wow, this is really fun that he wrote a book like this. It's like it's pretty easy going. So what are the girls reading? But are they bringing recommendations to the table? Like, do they bring things from school?
Well, they are both into. I don't actually know what Astrid's reading, and I don't know what Zoe's reading. I should probably find out. They tell me, but the titles don't stick in my head, so I don't really know. But,
what do they like?
I mean, they like fantasy with strong female protagonists.
Okay, like what's their number one? Like, what do you think is like their like the stuff that they really like? You and I definitely have number ones.
Well, I said that. I mean, they really loved the Hitchhiker's Guide series that I read them. They really loved all those. Yeah. Really? They like the absurdity of it. They definitely dig that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because the only female lead in that is Trillian.
Oh, that's true. It doesn't always have to be a female lead, but it has to be. If something is well written and fun, then they like that.
Are they into the whole Hunger Games thing?
I read them the Hunger Games. We made it all the way into the third book, and they were like, "You have to stop."
Why?
They thought the writing was atrocious.
Oh,
yeah.
Seriously, that's what they.
Yeah.
thought?
Well, I mean, I've read them Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and just a ton of stuff, and I did ask them. I said, "Now, let me know if you feel like how you feel about the writing. Can you see the characters, or can you see the world? How I actually think I could read them to Piranesi. They would enjoy it."
Well,
they do enjoy Foundation. I mean, so the sadness is not a problem for them. That I said, "This is a really creepy show. Are you, were you disturbed by it?" They're like, "No, it's a TV show, Dad. Doesn't bother us. Do you have bad dreams or anything?" "No, I know I don't have bad dreams because of a TV show."
Huh.
They're not like me. So
how are you?
I think I can definitely. I mean, when I was a kid, certainly I would have bad dreams from a commercial for a horror movie.
Oh yeah, no. I was terrified by it. I remember several movies sent me scurrying to my brother's bed.
Yeah,
I was so terrified.
Yeah,
Planet of the Apes. Oh my God.
Yeah,
it freaked me scared the living crap out of me.
Yeah. They haven't
Not
seen
the
that.
apes.
Right.
It wasn't the apes, it was something else, but still, I mean, yeah, I was a total scaredy cat. I still can't. I don't watch horror films at all.
I don't either.
Can't. They scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, I
People
do
say
not
to me,
enjoy
why don't
that.
you watch horror films? I think they scare me. Isn't that the whole point? Why do people make these movies?
I know. Right, and that's a good question. That's a good question.
Okay,
but I think for some people, it's like an adrenaline rush. It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, like the people who answer surveys.
Yeah.
Bully for you.
Exactly.
You go get them, Charlie.
Go into scientific studies.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
All right,
wrap it
Lionel,
up.
happy birthday, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Hope you have an enjoyable evening. Maybe get
I am.
out. You're in Syracuse.
I am in Syracuse. It's going to be great.
You
It's a
can
beautiful
walk
day.
somewhere, maybe.
Yeah. We can hope.
All right. I got to come visit you sometime. I do.
Yeah, you do. I got to come visit you.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you next time.
See you.
The Funny Not Funny podcast is produced by me, Jim Infantino. This clip from the album Utopia Revisited. We are found wherever podcasts are found. Visit our website at funnynotfunny.bigego.com. Please tell your friends and leave a rating or review.